Thank you, Governor, and thank you for everyone this morning. I think it's so important to be having this discussion. And before I start my formal remarks, I do want to say it's nice being in a room that with the career I have had to come in contact with people at the local level and the state level that have really been interested in mature worker issues for many, many years. So I thank you for the work you've been doing in your counties, in your cities, but at the state level to make sure that this is not a topic that doesn't go unaddressed by the people that service them. Coming from the local area, I spent about 25 years at Arapahoe and Douglas counties working at the workforce programs there and working with people who were very passionate about making sure that we gave opportunities to all workers. And what I learned in that 25 years is that people have the ability and the desire to be successful, but they need structures to help them do that. And so that's what we're trying to do with the Department of Labor and in partnership with our other state executive branch partners to start breaking down some of the structural issues that prevent people from being successful in the world of work, as the governor mentioned, for extended period of times as people live longer. I tell this story a lot, and I think about a year ago, I was at an event where Strata Education announced that the people that will live to be 150 have been born. And so I think there's a lot of questions in that. But if you think about it, when someone lives to be 150, what does that do to their life cycle? And part of that is that they need to be working longer, and retirement at 65, 75, 85, 95 is probably 105, 115. And so what do we do as government and structures to really support that? And I think that's what the future of work is for us and how we look at that. But I'm rambling on before I say thank you to Transamerica Institute, the Next 50 Initiative, and the University of Iowa's College of Public Health for asking the state of Colorado to be a part of this discussion and for having the governor and myself here today to talk to you. The Colorado Department of Labor and Employment's vision is a working, thank you. I'll put that up there, is a working economy, a working economy that elevates all of Colorado. What I find inspiring about our vision is we truly mean all of Colorado. It's the new immigrant who now calls Colorado home and who is finding new paths to prosperity and overcoming obstacles to success. It's the displaced coal industry worker that would like to keep his family in rural Colorado and participate in training, upskilling, and transitioning into a livable wage job in that community. It's the veteran to transfer into civilian life and trying to crosswalk the real world experience in service into a fulfilling second career. It's the stay-at-home parent returning to the workforce earlier than expected as a result of Colorado's free full-day kindergarten that was just implemented this past September due to Governor Polis. And of course, it's the 50-year-old who wants to either upskill, reskill, and stay gainfully employed, or perhaps even a 65-year-old that wants to re-enter the workforce after a short-lived retirement. CDLE supports the entire work life cycle of Colorado's workers. I'm very, the book that was given to us, that the cover says that living, learning, and earning longer. I think if I had to say the theme of my speech this morning, it would be the critical need and the accountability on all players in the ecosystem to really support the learning part of that. And I think I had a conversation early this morning, is as we talk about age-friendly workplaces, we need to seriously have a discussion about age-friendly learning opportunities. And so we have built an institutional structure that supports learning till you're about 22. And we need to figure out how do we make sure that we have structures that support learning at 55, 65, and 70. And I think that's what we're trying to do. I also think we need to look at not separating learning from earning. We need to figure out how do we help mid-career professionals, older, mature workers access the skills and training they need to be relevant while they're on the job, that we can't separate people from work and learning. And so how do we create work-based learning opportunities that mean something and carry a currency so that people can stay at work longer into their 60s, 70s, and possibly 80s? So I think those are the things that are structural that we need to continue to work on. And I think I'm very lucky to have the peers that I have in K through 12 with Katie Anthus, in higher education in Colorado with Angie Piccioni, having these discussions, or how can we make sure that our institutions are realizing that we need to look outside the 22-year-old learner. And as we talk about learners, where do people who are working in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, where do they go for career advice, and what is the opportunity for them to access navigation as we go through disruption? And I can tell you, Catherine, with the Future of Work Office, will talk to you and is on the panel this afternoon. That's where my biggest concern is. I think as we look at mid-career professionals, 45, 50, 55, 60-year-olds, think about the disruption that's going to be happening because of artificial intelligence and digitalization. Are they aware of what they should be doing and taking accountability to learn and to upskill before it happens to them? I see Phil Nash over there, a great partner with what we've been doing for many years, and a member of the Colorado Workforce Development Council, who's the voice of the mature worker and age-friendly workplaces on that council. So thank you for being here, Phil. So where was I? Sorry, I got a little bit off track, but I think that those are the part that I think we don't talk about a lot. And career navigation for people in their 30s that are maybe in their current career or have to look for another career. We need to create opportunities that give them strategic advice on where they should be putting their efforts on learning to attach it to work. Right now, the public workforce system in Colorado, we're trying to make sure that it's not seen as just a place that people who are unemployed and on unemployment insurance go for career navigation, but people who are currently working, the term incumbent worker. We need to create an awareness that how secure are you in your abilities to be relevant to your employer? Are you thinking about a career switch opportunity, and where can you go at no charge to receive that coaching and guidance and someone to give you some influence? And so we want to use the public workforce system throughout Colorado so that they can have that tool and feel comfortable that career navigation, career coaching is not something you get when you're in middle school or high school. It's something that you need to invest in. Make sure you have a resource person that you, just like a financial advisor, you have a career advisor that can help you every year, every 5 years to make sure that you're staying relevant. What are the opportunities for upskilling and retooling in your community or virtually that you can take advantage of so that you have that credential or certification that maybe your employer is asking for with the new hires they're bringing on board, and maybe you don't have. So I think those are the things we need to make aware of, but I can't stress enough that the conversation needs to go back to the worker and make sure they understand the need to take advantage of or know about those things, but then how do we build structures that support that? The other thing that the Department of Labor, I'll talk about a little bit, is we know that for economies to be successful, there's a supply and demand side. And so a lot of people think that we spend a lot of time with the worker, and we do. Most of our programs are structured to support workers. But 50% of our work is with the employer or the supply side. We touch about 170,000 businesses daily through the Department of Labor with some of our regulatory functions, unemployment insurance, workers' comp, division of wage and hour. And so we can influence and move employers in a direction. And so we are communicating to our employers on how they can be champions and ambassadors of creating age-friendly workplaces, because they know there's a critical skills workforce shortage in Colorado. And so we don't have one worker to leave behind or waste. And so we, at every level, from our young learners, our mid-career professionals, our mature workers, we need to make sure that they have opportunities to be relevant and access skills that employers are asking for. And so we do have a way to make sure that we can message and channel and create opportunities for employers to embrace mature workers. How do they keep workers longer? How do they retain workers? And how do we attract workers to Colorado businesses? I do want to talk about some of the things in mature worker issues. I mentioned I was at Arapahoe Douglas Works. I saw Don Mara's in here. Is he? He was here earlier, but he was in my position before I came in several years. Now he's the Director of Human Services with Denver. But about that time, in 2005, I came back to Arapahoe Douglas Works as the director, and we were talking about, and it's like, what as a public service entity are we not offering workers? And we kept having people come into the workforce center that didn't want to work. They wanted to volunteer. And they were older, mature individuals saying, no, I have a career, I have a retirement, I just want to go back and volunteer, and maybe I was in aerospace and now I want to be in front of a classroom teaching math or science. I was in healthcare as a nurse, and now I just want to work in maybe an assisted living facility as a greeter or a teacher or an art instructor. This was 2005. So at that time we said, well, it's not work, but it's putting people back out into needed fields. And so let's create a center that is specifically geared towards 50 plus. And so at that time we created 50 Plus and Fabulous Resource Center. And so that name was always controversial. He says, well, it seems like it's a female thing and we need to attract both men and women. And so that's off topic, but it stayed there for about 7 years and it was very successful. But I tell you, right around the recession, 2008, 2009, all of a sudden it was, no, I don't want to volunteer. I need to work. I can't afford my prescriptions. I can't afford health care. I can't afford my mortgage. I outlived my retirement. And so we said, wow, this wasn't about work. It was about placing people in volunteer activities. And so we switched, and thank goodness at that time. And it was funded because really you have to think about the public workforce system is funded to serve people who are either thinking about going to work or unemployed, dislocated. We didn't have a lot of resources to serve volunteers, and so we asked for a discretionary grant from the Colorado Workforce Development Council to work with mature workers or potential workers. And so that's how we funded that center. But in 2012, we realized, no, these people want to work and we need to put them to work. And so we were able to draw down federal dollars because we were focusing on work. And at that point, it turned into more of a workforce center, special resource center to specifically work with mature workers who had skills or needed skills, but wanted to work either full-time or part-time. And I think, early on, people wanted to come in and it was more of a social thing. I want to be around people. I miss that. I want to volunteer. In 2009, 10, it was more, I like the social part of it. I like being around people who are in my age group, but I also need to be upskilled in computer skills. We had Microsoft come in and allow us to give Microsoft Office certifications at no cost to people that were using it. And now the name changed to Generations at Work. So, and Kelly folks from Arapahoe Douglas Works will be here later this afternoon, but Generations at Work is still in existence and it's thriving as we look at the need for mature workers to either go back to work with the skills they have and have a champion work for them with private sector and business to get them in the door, or to retool and upskill them with resources from the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act and the AARP Foundation to help give them the relevant skills to help them look to work longer into their lifespan. So I think what I'm trying to get to is that, the needs for mature workers is relatively something. I think Governor Polis said his family worked at 85 and stuff, but the need for people to connect their skill sets to their relevancy to work is something that the Public Workforce Center is grappling with and trying to address, and say, how can we get you the skills you need so that you can thrive in a competitive environment at the age 60, 65, 70. And so I think we're being very successful with that, but it takes a partnership to do that. And I think the Rose Foundation, with the work they're doing, AARP Foundation is helping the public workforce system kind of build a movement that lets people know as they think about, how am I going to continue to work and stay employed beyond 50, 55? where do I go to get that resource, or how do I get strategic career navigation to do that? The ecosystem is bigger than just the public or the government doing it. We need partners that are experts and have resources that we can leverage to touch more people's lives. And that's both at the worker level, but the employer level. And so the work that we've been doing includes economic development as well as working with local chambers to make sure businesses are moving in the direction of creating age-friendly workplaces. And, this goes from, it's not any different what we think millennials are asking for in the workplace, flexible work environments, co-working space, teleworking. The governor he didn't mention, but we're really moving forward with a location-neutral employment ecosystem in Colorado, where Aero Electronics here in the metro area can have teleworkers, or people work from Durango, Montrose, Sterling, Lamar, and work remotely from home and provide a service and a valued skill set to that company. And so we just in November launched through Connecting Colorado a site that you can find the employers, not only in Colorado, worldwide, that are hiring location-neutral workforces. And so an IT person, a financial person, even a customer service rep can work anywhere in Colorado, and their company could be Denver-based, it could be New York-based, it could be London-based. And so we think that's a critical tool to allow people to work for their lifestyle, but also mature workers be able to work remotely for accessibility and ease, part-time, full-time. And so I think we want to look beyond just physical spaces that mature people work at, but how do we take advantage of technology and they can work in place? And so I think that's something that we're working on at the Department of Labor. I think I should use my slides, and I think someone probably, this is probably the priorities, and I really focus on the red and the blue dots. And from a mindset of the mature worker, the priorities that the department has, that really, we want to be model employers. How do we get to a place where people they have the skills or have access to get the skills to stay relevant to their workforce? And so this is something that both workers and employers need to do. Workers prosper. We want workers to prosper no matter what age they are in Colorado, but specifically, how do we make sure that age-friendly workplaces allow workers to prosper into 60, 70, 80, or as long as they want to work? Exceptional services. And so we want to make sure that the public workforce system in Colorado, that people know that we're available to them and that they can get career navigation, labor attachment, and they don't have to be in one of what people perceive unemployment office or a young person. So we want to make sure that that's a tool and a resource that our mature workers have available to them. Employer side, we know that, I think I have a slide in here. The labor force is aging, and this slide will show you from 2000 to 2028. The workers that are over 55 will more than double from 11% to 23%. And so it's a critical need to make sure that employers are realizing, what can I do to make sure that I keep Joe Barela, and I am a member of the 55 and older, so I don't ever now have to talk outside of that bandwidth on how I stay employed longer. And so you'll notice that all the other age demographics below that are shrinking, projected to 2028 from 20. Let me go back to this. Employer 5 and then the future of work. And so I was having a conversation earlier this morning that you can't have a discussion about the future of work without talking about the workforce of the future of work. And we all know in Colorado and nationally, the future of work is a mature worker. And so we need to make sure that we have learning and earning opportunities that allow people to stay in place at work or transition because of disruption to other places. Similar aging trends when looking at Denver. This is specifically for Denver. You'll see that we see significant growth in our populations, really 55 plus. You'll also see that in there, we also are seeing some slowing down on all but those that are 35 to 44. And then the last one here will just show you, like we talked about the workforce participation rate nationally of mature workers is going up, but in Colorado, we're just about 24% of our workforce is in that age group. Let me talk about, Governor Polis talked about SPAGA, and we have those people here. I just think about, I'm going to talk a little bit about the future of work in the office and let you know that Governor Polis is so invested in this that in September he signed an executive order creating an office to specifically focus on how this executive branch of state government is going to look at the many aspects of future of work. Within that today specifically, Colorado, and we are aware of the demographics and the populations that we need to focus on that will most significantly be impacted by the future of work. And because of the workforce participation of the 50 plus and over, really 45 and older, I mean, it's an imperative that we look at a state level, but we also have to go to communities at a local level and make sure that they're thinking about, how are we going to keep our communities thriving and how can we create opportunity for people in metro or urban areas of Colorado, but as well as rural areas of Colorado. If there's a need to work, how do we support that? And so I think we know that we need to come up with structural strategies that address the critical need to keep people in work longer. And it starts with the opportunity to access skill development. We also know that when people have the opportunity to be placed in jobs where they're using the skill sets that they've been trained on, that there's a greater opportunity for retention, promotion, and cultural fit into your organization. So I tell you, we're just starting our work with the Office of Future of Work. In fact, Tuesday, we had our first community listening session in Pueblo where Catherine went out and we are meeting with community leaders, community workers, community structures, government, to ask them, is this on your agenda and what's a priority? Are you thinking about how disruption will impact you? And listening to them, what they're currently doing, what they need resourced. And she'll be going out to all communities within the workforce development system. We have 10 workforce boards, and she'll be working throughout Colorado to listen what communities are doing, because we know it's different, but we know that at the systems level, there's things we can do that would enable communities to be more responsive to their workers and their employers. And so we're excited. Early this summer, we'll release a roadmap or a blueprint that will start setting practical implementation of what Colorado can do to make sure that the future of work, from everyone's perspective, is doing everything we can. When we specifically talk about mature workers, if you think about it, what are the industries that people say, and I'm not a doomsdayer with the future of work. I think that, if anything, if I could give advice to anyone who's currently working, make sure you have some type of tech-enabled skill that allows you to work alongside technology, and you should be fine. If you don't have Microsoft certifications, if you don't have an SAP usable knowledge, if you don't have something that allows you to work along technology, you're probably at risk of displacement. And so go out and learn to work with technology, and I think you will be fine. And I think the industries that across Colorado, that we've all heard it, that are heavily non-reliant on human interaction, human decision-making, human touch, are going to be disrupted. Industries that have over-repetitive tasks will be outsourced to technology. So I think that, as we look at do we have mid-career professionals and mature workers that are in those industries working? Yes, we do. And so how do we create opportunities for them to upskill and create relevancy to their tasks and their skill sets to the employer. And I always think it's in not just any employer of choice, because I think we live in a world where, at 55, 65, we no longer have to say you have to take the job because they're offering it to you. I think we live in a world, especially with our unemployment rate in Colorado, where the worker, the learner, can be a little bit choosy on what they want to do. And if you have the right skills, guess what? There are mechanisms to get you hired. And I know we have ageism, but we need to break down those silos. And if you have skills, no matter what age you are, there should be avenues to get you in place. I did talk about, as we look at reskilling and replacing people in their advanced years or experienced workers, the value of apprenticeships. There's a lot of focus right now on apprenticeships and work-based learning, earn-learn models for young people, but I also think the value of older returnships is the word I heard lately for mature workers to earn and learn, but to learn or acquire the skills as an intern or an apprentice for a certain period of time and then move into that occupation afterwards. There's no reason why. The average age of our skilled trade apprenticeships, people will probably be surprised, is 28. And that's at the start of their apprenticeship program. And most apprenticeships start at take 5 years. We have a big gap between 18 and 28. We'd love to get apprenticeships early on, but we also need, and when people think apprenticeships are skilled trades, well, no, we have doubled the size of apprenticeships with professional apprenticeships in the financial services industry, the logistics industry, insurance industry, and healthcare. And so when you think about apprenticeships, don't necessarily think of hard labor, blue collar, union, trade apprenticeships. These are professional apprenticeships that we want to see how do we create opportunities for employers to embrace mid-career professionals or experienced workers who want to upskill. I think I should close because I've talked long enough. Amelia, am I on track? Talked about skills. So important. That's where the learn-earn model skills. So with that, I just think for you in the room who hopefully are partners in communities in Colorado or at the state level or even national, I think the message that I want to give to you is that as we look to the future of work, our experienced workers, our mature workers are so critical to the economic success of our businesses, industries, which drive our economies. And so we have a tremendous opportunity to make a huge bandwidth in making people realize the skill sets, the value that experienced workers bring to the table. And it's in our best interest in our own work environments and in everywhere that we see how we move to more age-friendly workplaces for our workforce. So again, thank you for having me. I look forward to staying a little bit this morning, but I encourage you for the work you have to do. This is so critical, and I think we talk about our high school graduation rates, our college completion rates. This is up there with that, is how we keep people engaged longer in the world of work and how we take advantage of the experience and the skills that they offer to the businesses and industries of our communities. So thank you, and have a good day.